Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Aaron Judge got married in Hawaii, and Ken Davidoff thinks the Yankees should marry themselves to Aaron Judge. Now I'm picturing Judge in a tuxedo holding hands with Hal Steinbrenner, and I'm sure you are too, so you're welcome. And Joe Espada and Buck Showalter, who both have ties to the Yankees, are finalists for the Mets' managerial job. Find out what former Yankee Mark Teixeira had to say about both men. All that next on Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stacey Gotsulias, co-host of Locked On Yankees, joined by Abbey Mastracco. Abbey, how are you today?
You know, it's been a day. We are getting by this week. We are getting by. It's been a busy week. I'm working on a lot of Winter Classic preview kind of things. So if you like outdoor hockey and you like outdoor hockey in Minnesota, then if you're from Minnesota, then you're probably not listening to this podcast. But you never know. We've got fans all over. Then definitely check some of that out when it comes out in a little bit.
Yeah, and if you are in Minnesota, please stay safe because I know that there's severe weather warnings in places like Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota for more like tornado stuff. So just be careful out there if you're out there. It's mid-December. Why wouldn't there be tornado watches and warnings?
Well, it was 65 degrees in New York City this December, which honestly wasn't like a welcome reprieve. It made me anxious. It was like, Oh, we've destroyed the planet so much that we no longer got winter weather in New York City. Great. Yeah. So sorry, Santa Claus. We ruined all the holiday fun.
I know. It's such a bummer sometimes when I look at the weather and I'm just sitting there going, when is it going to get cold? Not that you really want it to get cold, but you want it to feel like winter for at least a month, like so you know that winter is still happening. And
no, I've been telling everybody this since I moved to New York. I want snow in December to make it feel very holiday, wintry. I don't really want snow in January or February, but that's usually when it comes.
Right. We did have one Christmas, I think it was maybe 4 years ago, and it wasn't a lot of snow, but it was technically a white Christmas. We woke up and there was snow on the ground, and it was only 4 years ago, so I was like 43. I was like a kid on Christmas because I saw snow. Because you think New York would get snow more often for Christmas, but we really don't. And as you said, it doesn't really start happening until, you're planning your spring training trips in March, because that's usually when all the big blizzards hit. It's not December. So yeah, it's this weather is just, it's too much for me. I can't take it. I want it to be cold at least for a little bit, just so I know that winter is still in existence, at least in New York.
Like I know that maybe things are, I don't know, less doom and gloom than we're thinking right now.
Right. So as usual, you can get this podcast in Apple, Google, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher. You can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Yankees. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. Subscribe, like, comment. Try and be nice when you comment. Thank you. As I said, we passed 666 subscribers this weekend. We hit it. I took a screenshot. I was very excited about it. And now all the other Locked On hosts are starting to take screenshots when they hit certain numbers because of me being a numbers geek. So it's kind of funny.
We did it.
Yay.
We did it. 666.
Now, something not evil, something actually very nice happened this weekend. Aaron Judge got married to his high school sweetheart. They were together in high school, then they weren't, and now they are, and now they're married, and, they had a nice wedding in Hawaii. A bunch of Yankees and ex-Yankees were there. I've never been to Hawaii. The furthest west I've been is California. Have you been to Hawaii?
I have. Years ago, we went for my dad's 50th birthday. We went to a couple islands. I was in high school. My dad attempted to ride I forget what it's called. This is so bad that I'm in Southern California. I've spent 10 years in Southern California and I can't remember what that little board that you just sort of ride in the wake. Not a full surfboard. Anyway, my dad tried
like a bodyboard or
it's just this little, it almost looks like a skateboard and you just sort of ride it in the shallow surf, where the waves break on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so it's just, I'm having brain freeze. I don't know why, because I spent 10 years in Southern California watching people, all the boards, and I've even used one myself, and I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it'll come to me at some point during the show. This happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
My dad attempted to ride that and immediately fell full back. Happy 50th birthday, Vince. You're old. You can't do the same things you used to do anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah.
See, my earliest memory of Hawaii is watching the Brady Bunch when they went to Hawaii and all that weird stuff started happening and the spider on Greg's chest. And so that was my first exposure to Hawaii. And why would I want to go somewhere that had big spiders like that? And Don Ho and tiny bubbles. I'm totally aging myself, but Sully will appreciate this.
Hawaii's great. I mean, I haven't been since high school, but like it was a really, I personally love like water sports and hiking and things like that. So it was, fun for all ages. And I remember my brother
was that
was
a California thing? Like, do a lot of people from California because a lot of people from here will Mexico and the Caribbean seem to be more of a destination for East Coasters, where it seems Hawaii, I mean, it's kind of a pain in the ass for us to get to because it's,
exactly.
5-6 hours to get to the West Coast.
It's like a 3-hour flight to get there, maybe a little bit longer from LA. Mexico is a big destination for us too. I mean, my grandparents had a house just over in Baja. A few months ago, I went to spread my grandfather's ashes in Baja, and it was a 3-hour drive for me with my uncle's best friend, a 50-year-old accountant named Mark, who used to be jail assistant. That's my Mexico buddy.
There's another Yankee connection, sort of.
Exactly. 50-something-year-old gay accountant named Mark. He's the best. We have a great time. It's my uncle's best friend, and my uncle usually comes with us as well, but he couldn't. So my mission was to take kayak out into the water because he was ocean kayaking into his 80s. He was like kind of a legend around Rosarito Beach. Like the surfers that would come knew who he was, but the water. So I kind of settled for spreading his ashes. His ashes got spread in his favorite place on earth, which was Mexico. So Baja's a pretty popular destination for us too. Cabo's not super difficult to get to. I sort of prefer the west coast of Mexico, although I say that having not spent much time on the other side, so I'm biased.
Yeah, I've never been.
But yeah, it's just the flights. It's the flights because it's just so quick to get to the Caribbean here. It's a hassle to get to the Caribbean from the West Coast. I don't know about the Midwest. I did live a year in Kansas City, but I don't really know where everybody was vacationing. Branson, Missouri. I guess that was just a summer thing.
But no offense to Branson, because Branson actually, I mean, it's so built up in the last like 20, 25 years, and there's a lot of stuff to do there. And I know they have like amusement parks and stuff like that, because it used to be nothing. And then who was it that moved out there that made it such a destination place? It's a country singer, right? That turned it into a really like, I think, well, I'll think of this and we'll mention it again. But yeah, now
we're both having some brain freeze.
I know it's one of those days, and it's not even Monday, it's Wednesday. So the first hint that something was happening with Yankees, Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, and Luis Cessa took a picture of them in a pool, or themselves in a pool in Hawaii. And it was such a funny picture too, because they all posted it on their Instagrams, I think Thursday or Friday of last week. And it just looked like they were so far away in the picture, and they were just so huddled together in the pool, and it kind of looked cute. It was like they were like a throuple, and I just thought that was adorable. And then the news came out that they were all there for Judge's wedding. Tyler Wade was there. Giancarlo Stanton was there. There was a group picture with a bunch of guys. Some of the guys, I can't tell some of these white guy Yankee players apart. And, I'm kind of like, I think that's a bullpen guy, but I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know who that is. Okay. But it looked like a nice time was had by all. And, Aaron Judge is a married man now.
And he is no longer New York's most eligible bachelor.
Right. Yeah. He's not doing the Jeter thing where he's waiting till after his career's over. He's actually settling down right before he turns 30. So, good for you, Aaron Judge. Now, speaking of just before turning 30, the Yankees have a decision to make about Judge, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar, Built Bar. You get the best of both worlds with Built Bar because it's delicious and healthy, and there's so many flavors you'll have hard time choosing. My favorite is mint brownie. I say it all the time. I know that Sully's favorite flavor is raspberry, and I believe that Bryce from Locked On Rangers also likes mint brownie with me. Built Bar gives you extra fuel, so if you still need to do your holiday shopping, you only have like 9 days to do it. So if you need that extra fuel to knock down some doors and battle every other holiday shopper, grab a Built Bar. People are so passionate about their favorite flavor that they'll fight for it and things could get out of hand. Again, don't touch my mint brownie Built Bars if you're anywhere near me. I'm warning you right now because, no, that's just not going to work for me. The newest thing from Built Bar, they have Built Bar Puffs. They're light, they're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and there's all different flavors. I've tried a few of them. They're just as good as a regular Built Bar. They're all chocolate, covered in chocolate like a regular Built Bar, and they taste so good you won't believe that they're filled with protein. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. All right, Yankee fans, it's already been an interesting offseason, and it won't be long before pitchers and catchers report. Hopefully. And I'm going to give you the inside track on the absolute best fantasy baseball platform in the industry. It's Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable MLB fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Create or join a fantasy baseball commissioner league, invite your friends, and dominate your draft this season. It's also the top dynasty fantasy baseball platform in the industry. Coming from another service, Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. Ever have a trade go wrong or make a mistake in dropping a player? The commissioner tools will allow you to undo any move with one simple click. Among the most trusted names in fantasy sports since 2008, Fantrax invites you to sign up today for free. If you do, you'll be entered to win an official MLB signed baseball from Fernando Tatis Jr. Simply go to fantrax.com/lockedon and use the promo code Tatis, in case you don't know how to spell that. That's Tatis when you sign up, and you'll be eligible to win. Fantasy sports doesn't sleep, and neither does Fantrax, with seasons running 365 days a year. That's why there's a reason why fantasy players who try Fantrax make it to the permanent home for all their fantasy leagues. Again, sign up to win an official MLB signed Fernando Tatis Jr. baseball by going to fantrax.com/lockedon and use the promo code Tatis. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Play ball. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Ken Davidoff wrote an article about a possible extension for Aaron Judge. And he basically, I love how he said, Aaron Judge got married, so maybe it's time for the Yankees to marry themselves to Aaron Judge. And I thought that was, I just thought that was so hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's true, they really should. I don't think that they should whiff on this. I had to use the baseball pun there.
You had to go there. It was sort of a dad joke, man.
I know. And I have a friend who's like, my friend Matt is so good at dad jokes that I kind of want to hit him sometimes because it's just every once in a while I don't think he's going to do it. And then he just does it. And you're just like, oh. Yeah, this is something the Yankees need to get done. We talk about all the other things that the Yankees need to do once the lockout is over, getting a shortstop, possibly working on shoring up center field because we still don't know how Aaron Hicks is going to be. And there may be some pitching moves to make, but the Aaron Judge thing, again, they can't whiff on this. He is the face of the franchise right now. The first game I went to this season against the Angels, when I stepped out of the Metro North station and saw the Pepsi ads, it was all Aaron Judge's face. And I just was like, yeah, that's it. Like when you think of the Yankees, his jersey is the most popular Yankees jersey sold all over the country. And they have the judges' chambers, which I think is great. I love that. The people get so excited sitting in that section when he hits a home run, and they show them on TV. And, I like what he brings to the team. I like how he represents the team. Sometimes he could be a little boring, but he's just like how Jeter was in his canned answers. Although Jeter did get a little jackassy toward the end of his career, which I appreciated a lot. And I kind of hope that Aaron Judge that happens to him too.
He has. He's gotten snippy with some answers when we've interviewed him. He's not afraid to push back. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not really warranted, and that's not just me sticking up for my media friends. There's been times where there's been some pretty innocuous questions that he clearly just doesn't like or doesn't want to answer. But for the most part, I don't know a lot of there. He's in New York. He's getting a lot of questions that other players aren't going to get. Some of them are really ridiculous, and it wears on you a little bit.
Right. But you agree with everything that I just said about him being
he's the face of the franchise. I don't want to say that he's like the new Jeter, because I think maybe Jeter sort of transcended a lot of sports. Like Jeter's somebody that okay, my mom knows nothing about sports. We sometimes play this game. I'm like, any professional athlete who is currently playing a professional sport, and inevitably she'll get 5 down the line and she'll be like, Mom, not Michael Jordan. Tiger Woods. Well, okay, you got one. She'll get 5 down the line and she'll be like Derek Jeter. I'm like, no, Mom, God, can you learn one athlete, please? So I don't know that he has he has reached the crossover appeal just yet, but I think he's on his way there.
Right.
And he's one of the most marketable players in baseball. He is one of the most well-known. And the contributions that he made Yankees there, I mean, I don't know that they would have been in that wild card spot at the end of the year had he not stayed healthy. Look, he figured out a lot about how to stay healthy this year, but I think his contributions really helped lift the Yankees to that wild card spot. And it was such a narrow margin. They clinched it at the end of the year, or on the last day of play. And it was his little infield blooper that clinched it for them. And I know I've talked about how sort of ironic it is that their heaviest hitter, clinched it on an infield single, but hey, sometimes just put the ball in play and see what happens. I think he is the key. He's the centerpiece around how the Yankees are going to build. Now, that does not mean that they don't need to look into some other areas to shore up the roster. And we've talked about that ad nauseum, but it is pretty important for the future of the franchise to lock him up to a long-term deal. Now, with that said, it's a little strange discussing this during a lockout, because they're going to have to negotiate under the next collective bargaining agreement. So we don't quite know what that's going to look like yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he is turned 30. I think he's going to enter his age 30 season either this year or next year. I need to double check.
He's turning 30 in April, I believe.
Okay. I was going to say, don't get mad at me for not knowing when Aaron Judge is turning 30. Sometimes I don't even know my own age. So I think they've got to be, I think what they're looking at is probably a 5-6 year deal with some options after that. I know that Ken Davidoff had written something like that. I don't quite remember all the numbers that I should probably pull it up. You know what? I can just do that. I have the internet. I can pull up the story real easy. I think like I said, I think a 5-6 year deal with some options. That's what the Yankees are looking at to shore him up for the foreseeable future.
Right. Because as you said, he is turning 30, which is hard to believe. Because it feels like just yesterday that he came up as a young buck in 2016 when him and what's his name? Oh my God, Tyler Austin? Is that his name? They went back to back in their first at bats.
Oh, Tyler Austin.
As the Yankees.
All the Tylers.
Yeah. Oh, too many Tylers, too many Chasins. What are the other ones that all the names that I'm like, how are there 2 Chasins? There was a Chasin Bradford and
the
Chasin
Chasins were both from Vegas.
And they both played for New York teams.
Friends. I know. They were really good friends.
What?
They played they're both from Vegas. They're both really nice too. Honestly, Chasin Bradford is probably one of my favorite people in baseball. He is so genuinely nice. Does a lot for the military, his family's military. Some of my favorite players in baseball are the players that nobody really knows about. I know he's battled some injuries, but just everybody who meets Chasin Bradford just talks about what an amazing human being. Super, super nice and works so hard.
But it is kind of funny that
I would imagine that Chasin's freebies too.
Yeah, but it's funny that both New York teams had a Chasin. What?
Popular name in Vegas.
I've never heard of a Chasin. Yeah, and there's 2 of them in New York on either team. That was just so crazy. But yeah, let's see. Now, Joel Sherman had proposed back in October.
5 years,
5 years,
189 million, add
yeah,
and 38 million, vesting option for 2028 through 20, so age 36 through 38, based on collective plate appearances, and possibly an opt-out for 2024. I think the plate appearances is key. I was sort of thinking along the same line because of his injury history. And it's unfortunate to ding a player for things like that, but that is how it works at the bargaining table. He has not really proved that. Look, guys with big bodies like that, they tend to wear down sometimes. And he plays with such a style where he's diving for every fly ball, and
like he plays the way you want him to play, but he also plays where you're just like every time he does something.
There's going to be some. I think that there's going to be on the back end of his contract, if there could be some incentives. There could be some incentives, slate appearance incentives, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that could change the dollar value, the overall dollar value of his contract. But yeah, 5 years with a couple option years, what I think would be the starting point.
Right, because Judge himself said that he'd want to be a Yankee for the next 10 years. And, we've seen the Yankees sign guys for a long time, and we've seen guys play until they've hit 40 and see how they take a nosedive.
You just don't know.
Right. It's true. I mean,
so
especially like you said with him.
Yeah, so I think that's where we see the incentives start to come in, and he's turning 30, and that's typically an age where players stop getting better and they start either plateauing or regressing. So he is a generational, or he's not a generational player. I shouldn't say that. He's a very marketable player. He is the key to, he's the face of the franchise, as we see, and he the engine that makes the lineup go. So they're going to want to lock him up for a significant period of time. The hesitance, how many option years do you give him? Because he's turning 30. Free agency in a couple years, let's say he signs a term deal with an opt-out out in 2024, as Joel Sherman, that was a number that Joel Sherman put in there, an opt-out in 2024. He's going to make big money somewhere else. So if he wants to stay with the Yankees, then they better throw the book at him.
Yeah. Maybe we should bet when the Yankees sign him to some sort of deal. Will it be before they need to and get it done, or are they going to jerk us around and make us think, uh-oh, maybe they're not going to do it right away. Oh no. But if
I don't know that
bet,
No, I knew this was coming. I was going to say, this has to be a segue because I don't know how to bet during a lockout.
Right.
So there has to be a segue.
If you want to bet, if you want to bet during the lockout, you have Bet Online to help you out, because Bet Online has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, because football season is continuing its march to the playoffs. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, I kind of wish I bet on Curry last night. I really thought he was going to set his 3-point record within 2 seconds at Madison Square Garden. It actually took a few minutes for it to happen, so I was slightly disappointed in that.
I love watching Steph Curry. He's one of my favorite players to watch, but there's still part of me that is I grew up a huge Sacramento Kings fan, and the Warriors were nothing growing up. I didn't know any Warrior fans, and that's even like including my Bay Area friends who in the like the 90s and early 2000s were Kings fans. So like I'm slightly a lot bitter that the Warriors became a dynasty and the Kings haven't made the playoffs since the Seattle Supersonics were a thing.
Wow.
So
Yeah. I will say this one quick thing. The first time I ever went to LA, my friends and I went to what was then called Downtown Disney. I don't think it's called that anymore, but we watched Game 7 between the Lakers and the Kings in the conference finals in '02. And
yeah.
being around that many Lakers fans in a sports bar was insane. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like,
That
wow.
game still haunts me.
Yeah.
Still haunts me.
Speaking
I
of things
couldn't. Well,
haunting.
how did Chris Webber not? How did Chris Webber like not be able to handle a basketball all of a sudden? Okay, sorry.
Well, I mean, it
Go on for
happened when he
days
was on
about that.
Michigan too, so he kind of had a track record there against North Carolina. Ooh, that was, oh God. Yeah, I was in college when that happened, and when he called that timeout, I just thought, oh, that's bad. Yeah, that's really bad. Now, speaking of moves that weren't quite right, Buck Showalter and Joe Espada are two of the finalists, or maybe the two finalists for the Mets managerial job. I joke about Buck Showalter just because, you know, when the news came out that he was one of the finalists, and this particular thing we're talking about, where Mark Teixeira called him like one of the smartest guys in baseball, everyone on Twitter brought up the Zach Britton non-decision from the wild card game 5 years ago.
You know what? Look, even Belichick probably has that on him still.
Sure.
You're not going to get at the time. It's impossible.
Right.
Games, you know. Yeah, he badly misplayed that, and then quite a lessee. But at the same time, how many other bad reports?
Right. It's true, but it just seemed funny to me that when I saw that
at the time, it's just impossible.
Yeah, it was just so many people were making that joke, and it was. I thought back to that day watching the wild card game, and you know there are some times on Twitter where an entire group of people band together to react to something at the same time, and it's one of the funniest things you'll ever see.
Yeah.
I point to the Bautista bat flip in 2015. The night that the first Sharknado premiered in 2012 was one of the funniest nights on Twitter ever. I mean, Mia Farrow was tweeting about Sharknado.
Remember the emoji wars between Mark Cuban and the Clippers to get DeAndre? Oh, that was great. I had to explain to my dad not only what Twitter was, but what an emoji was that night.
Yeah.
And why the banana in the boat was like significant. At some point, my dad really checked out of the conversation and he didn't care.
That's so funny. But now, the reason we bring this up, yes, it's a Yankees podcast, but both Showalter and Espada have ties to the Yankees. Obviously, Mark Teixeira has ties to the Yankees, and he was talking about both guys, and he said that about Showalter. I think Buck Showalter is the smartest man in baseball. That's not hyperbole. When you sit down and talk to Buck about the game, he's just so sharp, looking at it from all different angles, and his record speaks for itself. And there is not a more prepared manager as well. Now, we spoke about this last week about how, you know, some Yankee fans were clamoring for Aaron Boone to be fired and Buck Showalter to step in. You had said that Showalter will probably be a better fit for the Mets because of the situation they're in, and that someone else probably would have been a better fit for the Yankees for the situation that they're in.
Correct.
Joe Espada is an interesting pick. He's young, not that young, but he's a year younger than me.
He's been a name on the rise, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees spoke very highly of him when he was a bench coach. I think a lot of people thought that he would get a managerial job coming in like the 2017 or 2018 offseason. He didn't. He went to the Astros, another bench coach job, which is great preparation for being a manager. And the Astros have been prepared to lose him for the last couple of years because that's how much of an elevated profile he has and how highly he is thought of. I have heard great things with how he communicates with young players. He speaks Spanish. He's a Spanish speaker, so that's important as well. I've heard really great things about how he is able to communicate and break things down, break down elements of the game with everybody. He understands how a veteran is going to receive information. He understands how a young person, a player on the rise, is going to receive information, and he is very patient. And I've heard really good things about Joe Espada and his grasp of the game and analytics and sort of how to um, blend the analytics with the instinctual um, the baseball instincts that you need to manage. So I think a lot of people have been trying to figure out why Joe Espada has not already been hired.
Yeah. Yeah, because he tried to get jobs twice, I believe, right? 2018, after 2018, 2019. And then obviously with the pandemic and all that stuff, things were
But
delayed or whatever. But
when
between the
when
two of
he-
them, who do you
well,
think?
Matt Quattraro, the bench coach for the Rays, is still in the mix as well. He had another interview. As much about him, but I do hear good thing. But he is really great at communicating with players at sort of all levels of the major league game, and that's really important because you can't just take the same approach
Yeah.
with a guy who's been playing for 15 years as you are a guy who is maybe struggling to find his footing in the major leagues. It's not a one size fits all approach. Jacob deGrom just kind of goes about his work. He's got his routines, and he's really focused. Then there's other guys on the Mets who have a much more laid back demeanor, and it's a lot different. So I think maybe, look, I know that the worry with Showalter is that he's not super analytically inclined, but experience and accountability are going to be very key with that team, given the events that have transpired, that continually transpire with that team. Like, oh God, every week. But I've heard really good things about Espada and Quattraro, so I don't know that there is a bad decision in this group. I think that I might lean Showalter just because I know how much the Mets could use some accountability and how important that is. Not to say that the others would not. We just know that Buck Showalter has a proven track record of that.
Yeah. I feel that if the Mets had a different set of circumstances over the past couple of seasons and not so many weird issues, that maybe the other two guys would have a better chance than Showalter just for that, because it almost feels like they need someone to come in. I mean, I know they have veterans there now, and Max Scherzer's there now, and but I feel like most people who watch the Mets and who have looked at the Mets the past couple of seasons feel like they need to be babysat a little bit, and Buck Showalter might have a better time doing that just for now. It almost seems like bad timing for Joe Espada again, which is a bummer for him because he does seem like the perfect candidate for them. But I don't know. I feel like they're going to lean toward Showalter. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong as well. I mean, Steve Cohen did join this last round of interviews. It's he hasn't tweeted about what he's thinking yet, so
that's a good thing. Maybe someone told him to cool it a little bit.
So I just think that maybe from what Steve Cohen has said in the past about not liking people to learn on his dime, he might view a bench coach as somebody who has not quite learned the necessary skills to be a manager yet. I don't know if that's his thought process at all. That's the one comment that leads me to possibly believe that. But he could have evolved his thinking or changed his thinking after interview candidates. So I don't know. Everything I've heard is that Joe Espada is very impressive and a great communicator and an asset as a Spanish speaker.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Matt Quattraro obviously comes from a really smart organization that does things that's very progressive. So I think they've probably got three really good candidates. But you don't know. I'm curious to see how they they vet them, and they have changed their vetting process, because we know so many of their hires have been a disaster. And Sandy Alderson has said that they have overhauled a lot of their procedures, and they are talking to different people that they may not have talked to in the past. I'm curious to see if that is the case this year. I personally have not had any negative interactions with Joe Espada. When I've interviewed him, I haven't had any negative interactions with Buck Showalter when I've interviewed him. I can't speak for Matt Quattraro. So far, women tend to talk to each other. I haven't heard anything about these three guys, so that's good. That's a good sign.
That's a good sign, yes, and the Mets will be happy about that because, like we said, there's a lot of stuff going on the last couple years, and it'll be good for them to hire someone that we won't find out 6 months later there's some sort of issue
Skeleton
with them.
in their closet, yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's it for this episode of Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Abby and I would like to remind you that you can listen to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can watch and subscribe to us on YouTube, and when you get into your car, you can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Bets. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. One more thing, if you could be so kind, please rate the podcast and spread the word about this podcast to your fellow Yankee fans. We would really appreciate it. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we will talk to you tomorrow.